Hey guys, welcome to the show. In this episode, we're continuing our series of the COG Handbook, and we're moving on with our breakdown of the weapons. And we're still in the rifles. Last episode of the COG Handbook, we done the Lancer breakdown. Everybody seemed to enjoy that one pretty well. So this time around, we're going to do the Hammerburst, which is kind of the counterpart to the Lancer in that it's always been with gears. The Lancer and the Hammerburst have always been the two stock rifles from the beginning. Of course, they added a new one, and we're going to get to it next time, and that was the Retro. So that one will be coming up very soon. Probably will be the next installation of the COG Handbook for sure. But this time we're going to do the Hammerburst. And the Hammerburst is a solid weapon for sure. In this game, probably feels like it more so than it has been before, because it's always been a good solid rifle, a good staple go-to. It's always had the power, the active on the Hammerburst. It's always been the beast. So that said, let's take a look at the weapon stats in the multiplayer default menus, where we can kind of get a feel for its dot notation for range and damage. So we can see the Hammerburst for sure has the longest range of the rifles, and that is without a doubt unchallengeable true. The Hammerburst is king, and we're going to go through some examples of some different ranges and fires and how that thing behaves here in just a second, and you'll see the range is phenomenal with that gun, and I mean it's just great. It's excellent. I mean you can really land some ammo and some rounds downrange with that thing. The damage, of course, like I mentioned in the last episode with the Lancer, the 2 dots, which is comparable to the Lancer in the grand scheme of things. So it's, like I said, I think this is a damage per second kind of delivery breakdown system here. So I'm going to have to agree with that. I would put it pretty much in the same class as the Lancer as far as damage. So I agree with that. In the grand scheme of things. So let's take a look at a couple of different situations, scenarios, clip sizes, ammo counts, behaviors. Let's break it down. Alright, so here we are back on dry dock again because, like I said, this middle alleyway gives us a good approximation for distances that we can all relate to and easily reference in the game. So first up, we're just doing a little bit of close range work here with the Hammerburst. And the first thing I want you to notice is that the Hammerburst has no headshot multiplier anymore. Now, in the first couple of weeks of the beta, it did, and then they canned it during the beta, or they wanted it out during the beta, and it's not there anymore, which I have to say is probably a good thing, because when this gun had a headshot multiplier, it was king of the ring without a doubt. It was hard to deal with. So now there's no headshot multiplier. So that being said, why aim for the head, right? I mean, this gun, let's face it, this gun is dead on accurate. It's probably, it is the most accurate rifle you'll get your hands on as far as starting weapon. Of course, the one shot and stuff is going to be more accurate, and the long shot and that kind of thing. But those are sniper rifles; they're meant to be. But this is just your assault rifle starting weapon. Hammerburst, by far the most accurate. Now, close range, mid range, long range, doesn't matter. It takes the same amount of rounds to bring a guy down. You're looking at 9 rounds to drop a guy. 7 rounds if you've got an active. So 7 active rounds, 9 regular rounds. There's a 2-round difference for the active. Given the rate of fire and the single fire semi-auto nature of the Hammerburst, the active is definitely preferred. Now up close, like what we're seeing here, the Hammerburst, it will protect you. It can hold its own. But the other 2 rifles are for sure better up close because, well, I mean, up close is getting kind of hairy with a Hammerburst, and it can be. And I think a lot of that is attributed to, eerily enough, the accuracy of the Hammerburst. Now follow me here. When somebody's up close and they're bouncing around, wall bouncing, jumping over you know how people act when they get close, especially shotgun runners. And you're trying to fend yourself off with a Hammerburst. If you're not real careful, I mean, there's no spread on the bullet really, particularly up close. I mean, the bullet's going to go right where it's aimed at when you hit the button. So if you're a little loose on the sticks, then you're kind of just peppering all around him, and you're not landing that. But as we can see right there, I mean, this thing will hold a tight group if you wail on the trigger. So even though it's semi-automatic, single fire, you can get a pretty good fire rate out of it. And while I'm talking about that too, the fire rate on the Hammerburst is actually, it's variable with it being single fire, semi-automatic. So you pull the trigger, it fires. Fast as you want to pull the trigger, it'll fire to a point. The weapon has a maximum fire rate that is capped in the code that prevents it from going too fast, thus negating modded controllers. So even if you've got a modded controller, you can't really shoot it any faster than somebody that's really got a good trigger finger. The only difference is you don't have to wail on the trigger. I guess you could just hold it in if you wanted to. So there's no advantage there, and that's true for all the weapons like that, the pistols and stuff. They all have those built-in fire rate caps to negate the modded controllers. Just wanted to get that out there so you guys knew about it. Alright, so mid-range is what we're looking at here. This is where this gun really excels. And right there, as we can see, the aim down sights is definitely one of the great benefits of this gun. That's a new element in Gears 3 with the aim down sights. Hammerburst is the only one that does it. You click it just like you're going to zoom in with the long shot or something like that. It's that extra zoom. It's the third sensitivity on your sensitivity settings. And the Hammerburst, as you can see, it responds good. When you're aimed down sights, you can pan it around, track somebody fairly decent at range. Up close, you're not going to be able to. They're going to move too fast. You're going to lose them, and you're going to lose that fight. But at the range we're looking at here, good medium range and on out, you can track a guy with your aim down sights. So don't be afraid to do that. You should be able to keep up with them if you're running high enough sensitivities, and you should be. I never understood low sensitivities on Gears. All of mine are pegged out, 20 across the board. And so if you're not running high sensitivities, creep them up. Don't make the jump all at one time, but try to creep them up. I'm not saying you gotta get to 20, but a high sensitivity is definitely a benefit in this game. I don't know how many times I've been fighting with guys, and I can just basically sit down and eat a cracker while I'm waiting on them to turn around. I know they're running low sensitivities. So mid-range, yeah, got sidetracked again. So as we can see with the aim down sights, one it's got a couple of really nice benefits that I like, and I like the way it's implemented. One is basically an attribute of the gun itself, in that the kick. No matter where you're at, aim down sights, without aim down sights, even at this range or longer, you can wail the trigger as fast as you want. As we can see, Junior's backing up here. I think we're going to get a sample of this. You can wail the trigger basically as fast as you want, and the recoil and kick adjustment is not going to be so significant that it's going to knock you off target. That was kind of a slow, even at that range, you've seen how fast that was, and that was kind of just a slow fire rate. I wasn't pulling the trigger nowhere near as fast as I could, but that gives you an idea, even kind of casually, how fast you can down a guy at that range with this Hammerburst. The big benefit of the Hammerburst is compared to the Lancer, and of course the Retro at this range, is the Hammerburst is simply putting more bullets on target because of its accuracy. And you can see how we was kind of doing an experiment to see how fast we could down him. But so again, headshots don't matter. But this is I'm aiming in on his head because we was testing something here. You notice when he shoots me, of course it knocks my camera off and spins it around, but it zeroes right back in on where I had it. So if you've got an aim and you get shook up, it will zero right back to where you had it. It won't move it per se once it levels back out. Another interesting thing that I believe we're going to test right here is when when he shoots me and my guy moves, my camera shakes. Some games do that as an aesthetic thing, in that their camera will shake, but if you're firing, it still goes to where you was aiming at before all the shaking happened. Gears doesn't. Gears, I try to squeeze off a couple of rounds while it's shaking, and you'll actually be able to see, like right there. It fires exactly where it's aimed at the time that you pull the trigger. So it don't get much fairer than that. So you can keep that in mind if you're on the defensive. With a Hammerburst or something like that, the gun's dead on accurate, but if you can shake his camera up, it shakes pretty hard, and if he's pulling the trigger while it's shaking, who knows where they're going. So that's a good defensive thing to keep in mind, definitely when facing down the Hammerburst or any other weapon. Really, I mean, they all got some amount of recoil. Or, I'm not sure what the right word is when you're taking damage and your camera's shaking and all that. So we'll just call it camera shake. Damage shake. Damage shake. Now, right here, I'm kind of just fooling around. But what I wanted to get with another point I wanted to get across to you guys was, even at this range, aim down sights, as we're seeing here. Yeah, you can see how tight that grouping was, and that was with no stick adjustment for the fire rate. That is lining it up and pulling the trigger until the clip's gone, basically. And you can still see the burn marks there beside him. It roughly at that distance, and that's a pretty good clip of distance, in gears. And what that tells me is basically, like I said, there's no headshot multiplier, so why go for the headshot? This thing's not going to crawl all that much, even if I shoot it as fast as I can. And as we've seen right there, if I line that gun up with his waist and just pull the trigger away, he's down before the gun kicks up enough to go past his shoulder. So if you're not real big on the fly stick adjustments while you're shooting your gun, which can be tricky, just remember, aim for the waist, let the gun do the work. There's no headshot multiplier, no need to go for it. Aim for the waist and fire away. All in all, great gun. And next up is the retro. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you then. Thanks.
'Cause in the end, you've already been told. We're all just gamers growing old.